Hello everybody, Mike Price here for EastIdahoNews.com, and joining me today is newly elected Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeachin. Janice, thank you so much for joining me.
Mike, it's great to be here today, and I am thankful to have the opportunity to come speak to East Idaho News. Thank you for presenting a balanced and fair approach to the issues and to the candidates for our part of the state. It's very much appreciated, and we need to see more of this kind of dialogue in from our media. So appreciate you.
Thank you for saying that. So Tuesday was a long night, I think, for everybody. How does it feel not only to have won, but also to be Idaho's first female lieutenant governor?
It just feels so amazing. It's a culmination of past almost 2 years of hard work, going crisscrossing all across Idaho, talking to hardworking, honest Idahoans, and listening to what their concerns are, garnering support from all across Idaho, all the way from the Canadian border down to Utah and back and forth. We ran a very grassroots positive campaign, and we focused on the issues that are most important to the majority of Idahoans, and that is protecting our traditional conservative values where government has a light touch in all of our lives. And that was a message that resonated well with the voters. Our campaign, we were able to come off with 59% of the vote across the state. And there were only 4 counties that we lost, but 40 counties we won in 40 counties across the state. So I feel great. Feels good.
Good. So you now have I'm believing a much needed respite from all of that work, but the first legislative session of the year is coming up soon in January, and so what's on the first thing on the to-do list?
Well, my family and I, we got back home yesterday after a long night. I finally started to relax a little bit. Today I'm starting to get organized and respond to phone calls, messages, emails, looking at some dates that are coming up. I'm sure there's going to be an opportunity before the legislative session to go over to Boise and learn more about some of the detail about serving as a lieutenant governor. But come January 1st, I think the inauguration date is January the 7th. So come that day, I'll be ready to hit the ground running, having the experience that I have in the legislature, serving for 10 years, and having a lot of established relationships with members of the legislature. There's still a lot of my friends that are serving in the House and in the Senate, and we'll spend a lot of time getting reacquainted with them and with the new members of the legislature. I think that's going to be my priority. Just rebuilding those relationships and having good line of communication with Brad Little and the legislative leadership, so that when we begin to discuss policy, we can be on a good page together and put together a good plan for Idaho.
So one thing that became very clear over the election was Idahoans supported Medicaid expansion fairly strongly. How are you going to tackle that?
Well, this is going to go to the legislative body. I won't have a vote in the Senate unless there's a tie, and I would cast the tie-breaking vote. So the legislature will be tasked with how to make this work, and I haven't had any conversations with them yet. If they invite me to be at the table to help solve the challenge, I'll be there, because I did have 10 years of experience helping to manage the Medicaid program, and it's an important program for a lot of people. So if they invite me to that table, I'll be there to help figure out how to make it work for Idaho. It is going to be a challenge because there was no funding mechanism that was attached to the initiative. And so, I mean, I don't know how the legislature is going to decide whether they're going to cut back on existing programs in order to implement it, or if they're going to discuss raising a tax to pay for it, because there will be a cost to the state, and I'm not sure everybody fully understood that. But I hope they will ask me to help them with that because of my experience and knowledge of not just the Medicaid program, but of the federal health care law as well.
Throughout his campaign, newly elected Governor Brad Little ran strongly on education. How do you hope to be able to support him in that?
One thing that I campaigned on during the primary and the general, and I'm really looking forward to helping to lead out on, is what we can do in our schools throughout Idaho to help prepare our kids for their future, whether or not they go on to college, a four-year degree, through giving them skills-based training and helping Idaho close that skills gap that we have in our state. Next week is the National Apprenticeship Week, and I already plan on highlighting a family member. It's one of my nephew, who is in Idaho Falls from Boise, creating his own business from scratch. He's building a mobile wood-fired pizza truck, so a food truck that he can take back to the Treasure Valley. And we're going to highlight his efforts, and I'd like to work with the Department of Education and Governor Little and with my friends in the legislature to do what we need to do to help provide that link between our educational institutions and our business community, so that we are training and providing a pipeline of workers for the jobs that are needed in our economy today.
While Idaho still remains a strong red state, I think this election showed that more and more Democrats are either moving here or finally getting the courage to come out and be outspoken. How do you plan to work with differing sides in the legislature and throughout the state? The
same way that I did when I served in the legislature. I think it's fine and expected for each of us, whether we consider ourselves more conservative or more on the liberal side, it's fine for each of us to stand up and fight for those ideas, those principles that we all believe in. But when we get together as a body, a legislative body or a representative government, it is our job to listen to all points of view, and that's the thing that people will learn about me. They'll be reminded that that's how I was when I served in the legislature. I listened to both sides of the story. I did my research. I studied the bills. I studied the issue during a lot of the contentious hearings during my service. I would listen to thinking specifically about some of the reforms to education that were being passed through the legislature. I went and listened to all of the public hearings in the House and all of the public hearings in the Senate. And I heard a strong message from the professionals, the educators in our state. And so at the end of the day, they're the ones that influenced my vote on some of those policies. So that's the Janice McGeachin that you've selected to be as your next lieutenant governor, and I continue to be that way, represent all voices across our state, because now I am everyone's lieutenant governor, not just the Republican lieutenant governor.
You mentioned it now, and you also mentioned it last time we spoke, that you work to champion conservative values. What does that mean to you?
Well, at my heart, I am a conservative. I was raised in a Christian home, and there were certain values that I was taught, and those are still with me today. Family values of commitment, loyalty to my spouse and to our kids, to our community. I believe that when we are given much, that it's our responsibility to give back to the community. And the best way to do that, because of my experience in starting up businesses from scratch and running businesses, providing jobs to people, writing paychecks, and finding ways to lower costs in our business and increase revenues. Those experiences that I've had, it works best for business and economic opportunity when we have lower taxes fewer regulations, and the government touch is lighter in all of our lives than excessive regulation. And that's what we're seeing in our economy across the country. Because of these lower taxes and reduced regulations, we're seeing a boon in our economy, where we have a 4.2% growth in gross domestic product. We have record unemployment rates. Those are things that are working good to the benefit of people, not just in Idaho, but all across the country. And those are the things I believe in, and I will help to encourage those policies throughout my service as Lieutenant Governor.
Idaho is constantly growing. It's one of the fastest growing states in the country. Now, what would you like to see happen to help continue that growth and also facilitate the businesses and healthcare and everything that comes along with that?
Well, we do see a lot of growth in Idaho today. I talked about this a lot on my campaign trail, that there's a lot of people that are fleeing into Idaho because they're attracted to our lifestyle here. We have clean air, clean water. We do have a lesser hand of government in our lives, more freedoms, more liberties. A lot of people are fleeing from states into Idaho for those reasons. It does present a challenge to have such high rates of growth that we're experiencing right now. And what it's going to take is strong leadership from people who have experience serving in the community, experience in business. Brad Little is a farmer rancher. I'm a small business owner, and together we'll work to figure out. It's all a matter of prioritizing things in our state, what's the most important. We have a lot of demand on our roads, a lot of demand on our schools. That's really high right now. And our healthcare services. So we're going to work together with our combined experience and working with the legislature. I really look forward to being kind of between the legislative branch of government and the executive branch of government, being a person that can help facilitate real strong, solid line of communication between the two bodies, so that we can work together and develop a plan that will lead us through this time of high growth and help Idaho show the rest of the nation that we can lead on finding some of the solutions in healthcare and education, even energy policy with the Idaho National Laboratory, which is such a great gem in Idaho. We can lead out on helping to develop good energy policy, which will provide some clean, renewable energy sources through a model, hybrid energy system that we can use throughout the state and throughout the country. So I'm really excited about helping to lead out, and I think there's a lot of great potential for our state.
As you go through your first term, what do you want Idahoans to expect and see from you?
That I'm going to go and I'm going to do more listening. I was blessed with 2 ears and 1 mouth by the good Lord, and that's what I intend to do, is go do a lot of listening. When I get back to Boise, listening to my colleagues, listening to the taxpayers and the voters who I feel so humbled and so honored that the people of Idaho have placed their trust in me. I will never forget who my boss is. And my door will be open from the beginning, because I think that that's where we will find some of the greatest solutions to the challenges that we face, is from the smart, ordinary Idahoans that live right here in Idaho.
Janice, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate that. Congratulations on your win, and best of luck going forward.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.